Hey, my name's Tom Foisey. I'm the lead pastor of The Pursuit, a new church here in Minot, North Dakota. We're excited about being a part of this community, and we're looking forward to launching in fall of 2013.
That is a great question. How did The Pursuit Church get started? I think to answer that question, we have to go way back to what I call my Mexico moment. You know, for those who don't know my story, I didn't grow up in a Christian home. I didn't grow up going to church. And it wasn't until high school that God really got a hold of my heart. And I was on a mission trip in Mexico going into my junior year of high school. And I had just a complete transformation of soul where I accepted Christ as my Lord and Savior. And no kidding, I was a completely different person. And from that point on, God planted this desire in my heart to share with everybody I could about the incredible hope of Christ. And ultimately, I think that turned into a call to plant a church that would reach people that no one else is reaching.
Well, my name is Shannon Foisey, and I am married to Tom, and I know that he has always had on his heart to plant a church. He became a Christ follower in high school, and I met him in college. And in college, it was his desire to share his faith, this newfound faith that he had with everybody, from people who were always chasing after God to people who've never even heard about Jesus. He just really had a heart, especially for the broken individuals, for people who've maybe ran away from the church in the past or who've never even had a faith. And he just wanted them to be able to see what it was like to have a relationship with God. And so even in college, we knew the dream and the goal was for him to plant a church. But in an amazing way, he let me accomplish my career goals first. And so that led us out to the East Coast for a little bit while I worked at my graduate school. And then eventually I took a job here in Minot a little over 12 years ago. And in that time, I introduced Tom to Nicholas. Nicholas was one of my childhood besties. Our parents are still great friends. They raised kids simultaneously.
Hey, my name is Nick, and I'm one of the pastors here at The Pursuit, and we're just so excited that you would take the time to come check out who we are as a church and what we're trying to do in Minot here. This is literally our front door porch for those of you that want to explore and see what we're all about before you come experience what it's all about at The Pursuit on a Sunday morning. So we hope you can get the information you need to get an idea of who we are, and we hope to see you on a Sunday morning.
I became a pastor at The Pursuit Church, not because I had any plans at one point of becoming a pastor. I actually had many moments when I was a teenager where I kind of told God that I never really wanted to be in ministry. I wasn't interested in it. But when we were planning the church back in 2013, my perfect idea was I have a really good job and I love the local church, so I'm just going to serve in my local church. I could be a high capacity volunteer for the church and just help the dream come alive to reach people in our city. And I remember a lot of conversations where Tom was always trying to convince me that I needed to be in ministry. Not volunteering, but paid ministry, and he was always speaking that in my life.
And to me, it became super obvious that it was more than just volunteering, that God had placed a call to vocational ministry on his heart. And so I'll never forget when I sat Nick down and said, Nick, I think God's calling you into vocational ministry. And to see him step into that calling has been an amazing thing. And I can tell you that Nick has been one of the biggest blessings and gifts to have a partner and co-laborer in this ministry.
We started having meetings, just Nicholas and Tom and I, about what this church was going to be like and how we were going to split up duties and things we needed to do before we launched, and reading all the books and trying to do all the things. And we were supposed to come back with our top 3 locations that we felt like God had laid on our heart.
And just as we began to really genuinely pray about, Lord, where, when, what, all the questions with Nicholas and Shannon and myself, it became almost unanimously confirmed in each of our hearts that Minot was the right place. And while there's a lot of amazing churches in this community, we recognized that there was not a church like the Pursuit Church, and that there was a lot of people in our community who were lost and broken and hurting, and we felt like we could step into that and share the hope of Jesus Christ with this community.
planning a church from no church to having a church, I remember some of the powerful things that we did intentionally as a team, whether it was the three of us from the beginning, Tom, Shannon, and I, or when it grew to 5, when it grew to 12, is we just made this commitment to be who we wanted to be. And I remember January of 2013, we just started acting like a church. We weren't a church, we weren't having services, but I remember we started tithing and putting that money in a bank account. It wasn't technically tithing to a church because our church didn't exist yet. I remember we just started doing stuff that you would do if you're a part of church and the church we wanted to be.
So once we got confirmation that we were going to plant a church in Minot, now it was go time to actually put together a plan of how we were going to plant this church. And so Nicholas and I worked incredibly hard, and we took a business plan template and we started to lay out our vision, our mission, our values, our goals, our strategy. And I mean, we put blood, sweat, and tears into this thing about how we were going to launch the Pursuit Church. And we read books about church planning, we read books about church culture, all the things, and we kind of put it all into this one document. And it became sort of the guiding principles or guiding strategy of what we were going to do.
I remember in the fall, I think we were like 8 weeks out from the first service in our timeline that we were thinking, and we actually didn't even have a location yet. I just remember it being really close. We had no location to even meet at yet. We were feeling the urgency of like a deadline that we had put on an opening. And, but those are the best places to be because you're just on your knees before God, trusting Him that He's going to show up in ways that we can't in our own strength.
We didn't have too many connections to people in town yet. We were all fairly new to town. And so we just started going out and looking at buildings. And we didn't have a budget, like $0. So we couldn't get too much. But I remember one time we were walking downtown and actually I think it was on a wine walk, and Tom pointed out a building that looked fairly dilapidated, the old Chicago Club. And he asked someone, "Hey, what's that building?" And they're like, "It's the old strip club." And he's like, "That's perfect." And I'm like, "No, it's not."
And instantly, I just had this vision. God, this is where you want us to start. What a beautiful contrast of a place of darkness, and now we get to see it redeemed and turned into a place of light. And Shannon, she didn't catch the vision right away. She just saw the brokenness of it, the grossness of it, but eventually she came around, and it became this incredible starting place for us. And if you're around Minot 10 years ago, you may have saw our initial billboards, which was new church in an old strip club, and we were so proud of that space. Even though it was rough, it became such a wonderful starting place, and we were able to see this place of darkness become a beacon of light in downtown Minot. And yes, new church in an old strip club, what a starting point for this local church.